Allow me to paint you a picture. You are me, a 22-year-old college student. Yeah. It is 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, early spring, and instead of waiting for the beautiful morning sun to bathe you in rays of warm golden light, your demon device screams at you, blasting aggressive blue light into your tired eyes the second you pick it up. And so another day begins. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zuijderwijk. I'm a Dutch international student here at Bowdoin College, and I was born in 2001, making me a part of Generation Z, also known as the first true digital natives. And as one such digital native, mornings like these are quite common. My phone is the source of the first light I see most days, and I know that this is not a rare experience among my generation. There are quite a number of TED Talks, academic papers, and op-eds out there that explain to us how waking up to our phones and posting, sharing, snapping, and doom scrolling have some serious negative effects on our brains and our mental health. Most of it highlights that Gen Z spends excessive time on our screens, an average of 4 hours and 25 minutes per day, to be exact. As a result, our attention spans have shortened, leading to issues with concentration, stress, and anxiety, and this is further perpetuated by the constant risk of cyberbullying and constantly witnessing and comparing our own lives to other people's handpicked highlights. This much has been established. So today, I'm not giving you a guide to a self-help social media cleanse. I don't think I have to, because I know that social media isn't always good for you. What I am here to talk about today is how social media is changing from a low-stakes tool for communication and connection to a high-stakes extension of our identities that is impacting our sense of self and our communities. I believe we are in the midst of a widespread cyber identity crisis, which I have taken to calling cyber identitis. But what is cyber identitis? I use the term to refer to a common experience among my generation that is yet to be named. What I mean is that my generation no longer uses social media purely as a vessel for communication, entertainment, and distraction. As the first true digital natives, we were born on this vessel. Our main mode of communication is online. We broadcast our lives, connect with each other, and find online communities to reflect our real-life communities. And even if we don't explicitly intend to, we signal our virtues and ideologies online as well. So as we're projecting ourselves from the material world into the online world, the line between those worlds is fading. And what newly concerns me about this change is how high the stakes have gotten of how our online selves are perceived. Let me give you a hypothetical example. Here we have Ava. Ava is a second-year chemistry student at a US college. During her first year, she made some friends through classes who introduced her to on-campus activism clubs. She and her friends pride themselves on being open-minded, empathetic people who care about the world, which is something that I would argue most of us like to think of ourselves, or at least we strive to. Last week, during the final week of summer break, one of Ava's friends shared on her Instagram story that a genocide is happening on a different continent. This genocide is geographically far away, and if Ava's parents were in this situation, they would have most likely heard about it through a newspaper or on the evening news after dinner. But for Ava and her friends, social media has replaced these more traditional modes of media as their primary source for information. On TikTok, people are giving each other updates of current events, sharing fundraisers, and educating each other on the historical context. While on Instagram, Ava started following some victimized news reporters who share news and painful-to-watch photos and videos directly from where everything is happening. Ava's tendency to use social media as her primary source for information is not unique to this case, though. From influencer news to global affairs and politics, Ava and her friends have kind of not turned on a TV since they watched Sesame Street when they were toddlers. And physical newspapers function more like gift wrap than anything else. So they get most of their information through their phones. The difference between traditional modes of media and social media, though, is that traditional modes of media created a world Ava's parents used as an escape from the real world, one that did not require the absorption of their identities, one that they could participate in passively. Social media, on the other hand, has made of Ava and her friends online beings with online identities, online communities, and an online voice. As this online being, Ava now absorbs news in a way that has removed the buffer of the literal and symbolic empty living room space that was previously present between her parents on the couch and the TV screen that stood 4 meters away from them. Ava and her whole generation have breached the gap between passive observer and source. In a way, they have stepped through the screen and are now an active part of an online space that has consolidated almost all social aspects of their lives. Information, entertainment, community building, and identity formation are continuously being translated from the physical into the online. As a result, Ava and her friends now live 24/7 in the same online space where victims of oppression and violence are publicizing their suffering in an attempt to convince the world of their shared humanity. This has greatly reduced the geographical barrier Ava's parents may have experienced. Come to think of it, Ava's online self can now interact and form parasocial relationships with people who are living through the most gut-wrenching and inhumane violence. She lives in an online space that no longer permits ignorance to world events. So, as a person on the other side of the world, witnessing others suffer so far away yet so closely, she feels like she has to do something. Now, she could raise awareness by sharing some well-informed and researched posts and fundraisers on her social media platforms. She could donate money, go to a protest, boycott companies, or talk about what is happening with her family and friends. And while all these options are helpful, people at her school and beyond have shared the sentiment that silence is violence. So by not speaking out as her online self, Ava is afraid that these people may perceive her as complicit. This is all contributing to her cyberidenditis. Because even if she would rather donate money, go to a protest, or talk about what is happening with her family and friends, she feels like her sense of self is somewhat dependent on aligning herself with a set of values that condones violence in the spotlight of the online stage. So, Ava ends up sharing some posts from the victimized news reporter who she started following on Instagram. And once this is done, she feels a sense of relief because her online self has now absolved any guilt her real self was feeling about not showing the world that she cared. But how much has she actually done? To answer that question, we have to go all the way back to summer break. During the summer, Ava and her family went on a vacation trip to Italy. Yesterday, late at night, Ava posted some wholesome family pictures of that trip on her Instagram story. So now, when you open her Instagram story, you will find a picture of Ava and her younger brother smiling profusely at the beautiful sight of ancient Roman ruins. And when you click next, there's an image of a man standing on the ruins of his bombed house. A bombing he narrowly escaped as he went to get some food for his family, who's now caught under the rubble. Ava realizes, when looking back on her Instagram story, that in an effort to visibly declare the righteousness of her moral compass, she unintentionally confronted herself and anyone who views her Instagram story with a very uncomfortable and stark contrast between her own life and the lives of those who are victimized. This leaves her with a ton of questions, like, what was her role as a Western college-educated person witnessing others suffer? Was Ava merely trying to signal her good virtue? And how is she supposed to handle sharing her own joy in the same online space where she's attempting to call attention to human suffering in an appropriate and sensitive way? Is there even space for both? I don't know how to answer these questions, because in many ways, I am Ava, and I know that many of you are Ava too. Many of us changed our profile pictures during Pride Month, posted black squares, did the Ice Bucket Challenge, shared our hashtag thoughts and prayers, or simply send birthday wishes to a friend on their birthday publicly on our Instagrams to signal how good of friends we are. I think we do these things in part because we want to affirm our view of ourselves as good people. But like I've been saying, and like I've established with Ava's example, virtue signaling to our online communities can often become uncomfortable, have undesired effects, and perpetuate cyber-identitis. So how do we solve it? How do we cure cyber-identitis? I'm not a psychologist, neither am I a sociologist, but as a true digital native, I think I have a pretty good guess. I think what's behind widespread cyber-identity crisis is the degrading of real-life community. I mean, in the face of modern developments like car-centric infrastructure, poor public transit, urban sprawl, and the loss of functional public spaces, we've been funneled to social media for community. It has become more accessible to most than physical community spaces. Why do you think so many people say that college was the best 4 years of their lives? Campus moves in community. And when we leave the house to go to work, where do we exist as non-consumers? When we leave the house, most things that we do have a strictly transactional or productive purpose. So, lacking real-life community, we seek the online versions of the people that we know to find a sense of belonging and to make us feel heard. But like I've been saying, these online communities are prone to failing us. Besides, would we still feel the need to project our conscience into the void of social media if we did have strong real-life communities? I would personally guess not. So maybe cyber-identitis is just a symptom of a collective hunger for community. Now, this is not to say that we should all get off social media and start chatting up our neighbors, because I don't think that that is necessarily going to happen. Again, this is not a guide to a self-help social media cleanse, but I would like us to start thinking more about how we can balance decentralizing the flow of information and using our online voices for good without becoming online. As we take it upon ourselves to become amplifiers for other people's messages, we have to understand that social media is not designed to be a reflection of who you know yourself to be. I really do like to believe that we all have the capacity to be caring, empathetic, and sensitive people. And as people with those qualities, we now hold the rest of the world with not only all its beauty, but also all its ugliness in our pockets. This is bound to have an impact on how we move through the world, and I hope that today I allowed you to start thinking more critically about that. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.